All right, hey everybody. I guess this is the point where we kind of break down what's going on as we lead into the kickoff for the 2015 West Michigan Summer Movie Draft. I believe this is now the third summer movie draft. Pretty exciting. Happy to have everybody back for this one. I know we had a bit of an interesting draft, which was not recorded. So we'll kind of go through who's got what, who's doing what, and maybe talk a little bit about what we have to expect going forward. In case you don't remember, don't know really what's going on, this is a movie draft. So we've got basically what amounts to fantasy, football, baseball, insert your sport here. We get together, we pick, anywhere from 22 to 40 movies, depending on how the format goes for any particular season. And this season we tried to go for a draft list that was very condensed, had a lot of films that should do. Switched up the draft format this year, where normally we would go down the release schedule and get the draft films. Instead, we drew films from a hat, hoping to off-balance the importance of the movie that comes out this Friday, the Avengers 2. So all in all, we had mostly returning people here for this draft. We have teams again, -1. Brienne is on her own. And yeah, so without further ado, let's just kind of talk about what we got going on here. So as I mentioned, we've got the Avengers 2 coming out this Friday. Avengers 2 was obviously the movie that everybody wanted to get because it's a guaranteed at least $650 million for this whole draft. And to be honest, $650 million is pretty much what a lot of these movies are going to make. Like sum total of a bunch of movies together will make that much. This is going to obviously stand above almost everything that comes out this summer. So Avengers Age of Ultron got picked up by Aaron and Jake. They paid a very fair price of $57. Probably a little bit under what probably should have been charged, but as one of the films that became one of the last ones to bid on towards the end, and a lot of us had spent up too much money to even be competitive at that point, that made it a little bit more interesting, and Aaron ultimately got pretty much what he wanted. He also got the follow-up film for week 2 with Pitch Perfect, which opens up against Mad Max Fury Road, which went to Corey and Mark. Corey and Mark were mostly silent and also very drunk for a lot of this draft. And in the end, they ended up getting some pretty good picks. So I guess I don't really know how exactly we all want to run down this list. Kind of boring, I guess, to maybe go through each film individually, but, since we're going to treat this a little bit like a sports cast, I guess we'll kind of go through the different picks here. As I said, Age of Ultron, Aaron and Jake got that one. Pitch Perfect 2 also went to Aaron and Jake. That's the second week against Mad Max Fury Road, Corey and Mark. Mad Max Fury Road is the sequel to the Mad Max franchise. I believe this movie takes place in between the second and third Mad Max films. They haven't been very clear on this. This movie's been in production for near enough 6 years. So it's a very long production. The trailers are absolutely fucking crazy. The posters are nuts. Like, it's just one of those movies that, like, I think people who are into Mad Max are going to want to go see it. But everybody else, it's a tough call. So we have Tomorrowland, which comes up the week after. That's the 22nd of May. That one, Mark. They ended up purchasing 4 films all in a row that all released back to back to back to back to back on each other, which means they're eating their own pie in more ways than one. So there are 4 movies that all open up against each other: Mad Max, Tomorrowland, Spy, and San Andreas. Let's see, Tomorrowland, it's the big fantasy movie directed by Brad Bird, the guy who did The Incredibles. He did the last Mission Impossible movie, which is very well regarded. Don't really know much about it. I guess the new trailer kind of spoiled some things on it. Not really sure how I feel about that. Spy is the new Melissa McCarthy movie directed by Paul Feig, the guy who did Bridesmaids. So it's Bridesmaids, but with some dudes in it, and they're spies. Who knows? San Andreas is the big action movie with The Rock. The Rock is my homeboy, I would say, in the movie franchises right now. And if he's in something, I'm probably going to go see it. So a tough call, San Andreas. I think the jury's definitely out on some of those films. I know Mad Max is definitely being pegged as a potential hit. But you know, it's that 5-6 year build up to this movie. You know, how much steam do you have? And obviously the advertising has been very good, but does it going to reflect in the actual numbers? Because let's just face it, car movies do well if you're the Fast and the Furious with a big ensemble cast and a diverse range of acting and storytelling and whatever else. Or do you kind of go like Drive, where Drive was popular, but it wasn't popular among everybody else? I think it's fair to say that this movie's going to make somewhere around 100 mil. Hard to say. I don't really know. Spy is another tough one because the last Melissa McCarthy movie from last summer, which I had purchased for myself, which was Tammy did not do very well. Tough to say how that one's going to work out. San Andreas, it's an action movie. I think 100 mil is reasonable. I think 80 mil is reasonable. Don't get your hopes up on raking in too much cash on that one, guys. It's tough to say. Following San Andreas and opening up in June is Brian's first movie, which is Entourage. Brian definitely bought the bro movies this whole rundown, which we do have to kind of talk about something else in regards to Brian's picks here towards the end. Entourage is one of those things where people wanted a movie. You know, you got, what, 3, 4, 5 seasons in a movie? I don't know what the rule is these days. So Entourage movie is happening. A lot of guest stars in it. As somebody who could not stand the TV show, I honestly couldn't care less about this movie coming out. That's just me, but who knows? Following up with that, she opens up actually 2 movies on the 5th of June. She also has Insidious Chapter 3. Originally, that was slotted for Goosebumps in our thing, and Goosebumps got the bump, so that kind of stinks, but hey, whatever. No big deal. Opening up the weekend after that is the movie that's arguably probably going to make the second most amount of money, which is Jurassic World, Ben and Brittany. Jurassic World releasing a lot of promotional stuff. We're kind of starting to hit the stride with the promotional things for Jurassic World. So not only are we getting longer trailers, we're getting clips, we're getting sneak peeks. Chris Pratt just did his AMA on Reddit, which was very funny and talked a lot about Jurassic World. So we'll see how much this gets advertised. I know a lot of people are very off-put by what they've seen so far. I'm personally probably more excited for this film than I have any reason to be. So that's kind of weird, but I don't really know. I love Jurassic Park movies, the first one especially. So I'm excited. I hope you all are as well. Right after that is Inside Out, which is Corey and Mark. I think that this is probably going to be the sleeper hit of the summer. It's tough to say 100% for sure, but the problem with Inside Out is that we haven't had a Pixar movie for 2 years. The last Pixar movie was what, Cars 2, I think, maybe? Or was it Monsters University? Corey had a good run with Monsters University last summer, 2 summers ago. I think that was the first summer movie draft. I mean, it's an easy $150, $200 million. The subject matter, I don't know, is going to get people excited. So it's based on the 4 primary emotions that most people have, and it's the emotions of the daughter and the dad and the mom, and that's basically all we really know. So, I mean, Amy Poehler's in it as a voice. That's cool, but it's just hard to say what Inside Out's going to be, and that's why it's tough to say, you know, whether or not it's going to make a ton of money. So, I mean, it's going to be it's got a good release date in the second week of June. So pretty much all the kids are going to be out of school by then. It's the first family film of the year. It's one of only a few family films this summer. So that's very good for those guys. We'll have to see how that one plays out, because I think if Mad Max ends up tanking, which is a very distinct possibility, and it's an absolute shame if it does, I think that's definitely going to offset that tanking pretty easily. Right after that is Ted 2, another pick by Brian, another one of the Burrow movies. I guess the new trailer just dropped today for that, a Red Band trailer. I would say that in just the way Ted 2 was something I have little to no interest in, it's just, or Ted, the last one, it's the same one with this. Now, Ted was a surprise hit, what, 2 summers ago? 3 summers ago? So there's money to be made there. I mean, I know a lot of people who like Ted are really eager to see Ted 2, but I don't know if it's going to get in a lot of mainstream people who maybe don't really know or care. I don't really know what the metrics are on this one. I haven't seen a lot of things, so it's hard to say. Following up Ted 2 is the movie Max. Max, I think I'm being optimistic here because it is one of me and TJ's films. Max is the story of a dog, an assistant dog, whatever called an army dog, that was in Iraq, Afghanistan, one of those theaters of war, and it comes back home to live with the family, and the family has PTSD or something. I don't know. So we're gambling on two things here. First of all, it's a war movie. And after last summer and last winter, we have learned one thing. War movies do really well with Middle America. But if there's one other thing that Middle America absolutely loves besides the United States, it's dogs. Military dogs that come and help and live and do whatever else. So it's anybody's guess how well this movie's going to do. I don't know. I've seen some promotions for it, as in like posters. I know there's a trailer somewhere. I haven't seen the trailer. I probably should watch it to know if I'm actually going to do okay. But I'm just holding out hope that Middle America doesn't let me down, and that they go and see the Max film. That movie closes out the summer, and it also opens up against Ted 2, which is kind of an interesting play, because it's definitely going to be a Middle America weekend that weekend. So I don't know. It's just before 4th of July. That's got an upside for Max. So maybe we'll see. Opening up the weekend of 4th of July are two films. The first one is Terminator Genisys. Terminator Genisys belongs to Ben and Brittany. The other one is Magic Mike XXL, which belongs to Corey and Mark. Those two films kind of morally opposed, I suppose, would be the best way to put it. Terminator Genisys, obviously the next sequel in the Terminator franchise. It basically resets all of the films that have already occurred. If you've seen the most recent trailer, it kind of spoils a pretty big plot twist. Maybe. We don't really know a whole lot. That's the thing. Is like, so we keep seeing all these promotional things for it. And the interesting thing is that we know that Matt Smith, the former Doctor Who, is in the movie. And we have not seen any of Matt Smith in any of the trailers, any of the posters, any of anything, but we know he's in it. So why have we got this big story thing spoiled, and yet we know a major character hasn't been unveiled yet? So they're kind of playing an interesting game, and they left all their cards out on the table, and it got people talking about Terminator again after the last trailer did. So it's a tough call to say, you know, what it's going to do. And I would say that in just the same way that Mad Max is a very risky, big picture release, Terminator is just the same for Ben and Brittany. I'm fairly certain that with them having Jurassic World, this is going to kind of offset this again, because Jurassic World, I think, stands a very good chance of being much stronger than what we think. You know, I just don't know about Terminator. I think it's a guaranteed 80 to 100. Unless it's really, really bad, then I think you're going to be lucky to exceed 50 or 60. But it's all tough to say, but it is opening on a big weekend. Magic Mike XXL, I guess it's something that women wanted. Women is generally an untapped category in movies. They're not going to really have a lot of women-specific movies this summer. So, I mean, it's tough to say what Magic Mike is. It doesn't, I remember correctly, Matthew McConaughey is not in this one. So it doesn't have that kind of draw. But I think most of the cast is returning, so, you know, again, it's not really for me. So Corey and Mark definitely have at least some dollars to make there. Opening up the week after, on the second week of July, this is the 10th, they have probably the coup d'etat movie, if there was one, and that is Minions. Minions is the spin-off, sequel, prequel, I don't know what we want to call it, to the... what do you call it? The one movie that those ones. Personally, I've never been interested in the Minions. Personally, I find them incredibly annoying. Personally, I don't get why people like this franchise of movies, but hey, they decided to make a new one, and they've got this one. So Corey and Mark have the lock on the kids' movies this summer. I guess in a weird world where Pixar completely underdelivers, which I think is certainly a potential thing this year with 2 Pixar releases in 1 year, I think Minions might make up for it. I mean, Minions definitely has a bit of an appeal, not just to kids, but parents like the Minions, and there are kids my age who like the Minions, and Despicable Me, that's the name of the franchise. Anyway, I guess that is a thing, so we're going to have to figure that out. Opening up the weekend after is Ant-Man, which belongs to Taylor and I. Taylor and I had made a pact before this thing started that Ant-Man was the one film that we absolutely wanted, namely because, number one, we believe in Hank Pym, and we believe in Ant-Man, and we believe in Marvel, and Marvel is going to be our savior this summer. But also because, you know, you got to have something that you want. So Ant-Man, risky click. A lot of people weren't very convinced by the first trailer. The second trailer was much better. A lot of trouble with this movie even to begin with. It was written by Edgar Wright. It was going to be directed by Edgar Wright. Disney ended up firing Edgar Wright midway through production, like just before shooting started. They were going to bring in Adam McKay. Adam McKay ended up getting a writing credit with Paul Rudd, the star of the movie, on top of what Edgar Wright had already written. And then it was directed by somebody else entirely, whose names I can't remember. So it could be a mess. It might not be a mess. It's hard to say. I can say to the very least for me, it looks like it's going to be a funny action superhero movie. And I think that's going to be fun. And it's a heist story. And who doesn't love a heist movie? So that's kind of cool. Now, one of the things that we are going to be stumbling on here, Brian, for July 17th, we had Pan slated as a release for you. Pan got bumped to October, which is probably a better idea because opening up against Ant-Man probably isn't the best idea to make money. So we've got to decide what kind of film we want to do. Now, we could bump up your release a week and pick another one. I think there's a horror movie starring Ryan Reynolds that might be interesting. It's called Selfless. Or we can bump it down a week and maybe grab something else. Or we can kind of bump it to another film entirely. So feel free to hit at me on Twitter, on Facebook, or text me, or whatever. We'll talk about it. Otherwise, I'll just make a decision and try to pick a film that's going to probably make around the same amount of money. But it's a tough call because the release schedule around that time is getting pretty heated because that's traditionally when most people have a lot of time off and they want to go to the movies and it's hot and people want to just chill out inside the movie theater. So it's kind of a weird release schedule right there. Also opening up that week is Trainwreck. That has not been moved yet. That one also belongs to Brian. That one is the first movie that Judd Apatow has not written but is directing. And that one stars Amy Schumer. It should be interesting. It should be funny, but we don't really know much about it other than the fact that it's happening, and it comes out that same day as Ant-Man. So tough guess on how much that one will make. If it's really good, I think it'll do well, but if it's like a typical Judd Apatow movie, it'll make a decent amount of money, and then it will go on DVD and make a hell of a lot more. So that's usually the way that works. Coming out the week after, which is the 24th of July, is the movie Pixels. Pixels belongs to Ben and Brittany. That is the movie starring Adam Sandler, what's his name, Tyrion Lannister, Dinklebot, Peter Dinklage, there we go, and then that other guy from the Book of Mormon. Anyway, this movie, it's got 80s video game alien character things attacking Earth, and these guys, these pro video game players, have to defend the planet. So if you've seen that episode of Futurama, in which this happens, there's a very good chance you've also seen this movie. So I know a lot of people are betting at this point now, without having seen much about this movie. I guess there is a trailer out there that it might be a surprise hit. It might not be. It's hard to say with Adam Sandler and Paul Blart, whatever his name is. And the thing, it's a tough sell, but Dinklage is awesome, so who knows? It's got the nostalgia, but it's also saddled with the comedians that a lot of people outside of the middle America are sick of. So I don't know, it's a tough run. Opening that same day is the movie Poltergeist. It is the remake of the 80s classic, the 80s Steven Spielberg classic horror movie, Poltergeist. That one also belongs to Ben and Brittany, so they're doing double backing on this weekend. Poltergeist, you know, I saw the trailer as somebody who doesn't like horror movies, but really likes the first Poltergeist movie. I'm excited to see this one, but you know, horror movies tend not to do great in the summertime. So it's a tough sell to, I think, a lot of people, but like, given that Poltergeist was a fun horror movie back in the 80s, and assuming that this one is going to be a fun horror movie, and maybe hopefully in the same vein as Cabin in the Woods, maybe they're going to hit it right, maybe they're not. I don't know. It's tough to tell from the trailer if it's going to be legitimately scary or if it's just going to be a fun horror movie. And I think if it's fun, it'll do well. If it's supposed to be like a blood gore fest, I don't know if that's going to hit well in the summertime, especially with the superhero slate that we're dealing with. So that's going to be a thing. Opening up the last week of July, closing out July, is Mission Impossible 5. Mission Impossible 5 does belong to me and TJ. Me and TJ got a hot deal on Mission Impossible 5 for only $25. The last one made a little over $200 million. That's pretty freaking substantial. So I think the new one looks like a lot of fun. That's just me. We're just going to kind of have to see from there, I suppose. Yeah, I don't know. Tom Cruise is a controversial actor. I personally really like Tom Cruise. You know, I think this franchise, coming up the last one that did so well, that was so much fun and it was so exciting, this one stands to be pretty much the same. So it's opening up without a lot of competition, aside from Ant-Man, which opened up almost a whole, what, 2 weeks earlier. So maybe it'll be able to pick up some steam. It's hard to say. Opening up the first week of August is Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four, I went to Ben and Brittany. I would say this is also a risky pick because Fantastic Four, if we get into the politics of it, Fantastic Four, this movie was made by Fox so that they could keep the rights to Fantastic Four, the Marvel franchise. In case you have forgotten, it's been a little over 8 years since we've seen the last Fantastic Four movie. The last Fantastic Four movie did so incredibly bad at the box office that they put her the stairs of their basement and said, "Oh, I hope that never is seen again." It was bad. Like, it was bad, bad, bad. So they're hoping that everybody forgot about the last two Fantastic Four movies. This new one has a bunch of hot new actors. It's got like people from House of Cards in it. It's got people from Chronicle in it. If I remember correctly, it's the director of Chronicle that's directing this. So maybe it's like Chronicle in space. Who knows? But the other thing to kind of contend against this is Marvel has canceled the Fantastic Four comic book leading up to the release of this. They say it's due to slow sales. Some people say that it's due to the fact that they don't want any kind of build-up to a Fantastic Four movie, you know, being like, "Ooh, what's this?" They've cleaned it out. It's not happening anymore. Fantastic Four is done. And then you've got, you know, the politics of this movie just kind of just happening so that they could keep the rights and not happening out of any drive to have an artistic value to it or any story element to it. And, you know, it's hard to say because you watch the trailer and you see that they're trying very hard to make it an original Fantastic Four adaptation and things like that. But, I mean, at least for me personally, I'm already not interested in the Fantastic Four as it is. And then they go and try to make it new and young, and it looks like they're adopted and they're not going into space, and we see some of the powers and it looks okay, but it doesn't look quite right. I don't really know what to make of this movie. You know, and for me personally, I think the only cool part about the Fantastic Four is Dr. Doom, who is probably the coolest Marvel villain in all of Marvel villaindom. You know, as everybody knows, you know, or well, maybe not everybody, but Doom has seen thousands of worlds and thousands of ends of humanity, and only in one scenario does humanity survive and thrive, and that is under the rule of Dr. Doom. And, you know, he's got a point with some of his stuff. So, you know, that's kind of cool. I don't know. I really like Dr. Doom, and I want to see Dr. Doom, and I want to see Dr. Doom be a badass and kick some ass and things like that. But at the same time, I don't trust Fox at all for this movie. So, bringing that all together for what I'm saying here, it's an okay release slot for the most part. It's just before school starts. So I'm going for the kid angle. But man, like, Marvel is going to do their best to undercut this movie. Fox is going to probably over-promote it because that's what Fox does. You know, and I think the nerds are very split on whether or not they're going to go or whether or not they are going to go. I don't think I'm going to go see it because I don't want the movie to do well, but that's just me. So I don't know. It's a tough call. I think like I said, if Mad Max is a risk, if Terminator is a risk, Fantastic Four is definitely a risk as well. I think if there is a clear-cut, like, visible bomb already this summer, I would say that Fantastic Four is it. But seeing as how Ben and Brittany only bought it for $10, if it makes $100 million, they got their money out of it. So that's that. The week after, on the 14th of August, is The Man from U.N.C.L.E. It is the new Guy Ritchie directed action movie. It stars Henry Cavill, otherwise known as Superman, and some dude who's playing a Russian guy. They're spies in the 60s doing spy stuff, and they have to work together to stop some Nazi criminal thing. Anyway, if you've seen the trailer, it looks really exciting. It looks cool. It's a very highly stylized, kind of like James Bond movie, I guess I would say. So I find that kind of exciting and kind of interesting. But it's tough to say how well that's going to work out because, you know, a lot of movies try to do this kind of thing, and it either gets pulled off and it's critically well acclaimed, but it doesn't do well in the box office, or it's panned critically and then it just kind of just gets thrown in the DVD pile and it kind of finds its own way. Guy Ritchie movies kind of have a tendency to do that, so it's tough to say what's going to work out here. But me and Chidi bought that one for $10. I think we might have overpaid a little bit, but it's hard to tell for sure. The next one coming out after that is the movie Straight Outta Compton, which tells the story of the foundation of the NWA, how they became popular. So you got Dr. Dre, Ice Cube, you know, everybody else whose names I don't remember at this point in time in my life. As I said in the draft, Straight Outta Compton has the highest number of Facebook likes right now, I think, of the summer release slate, which is pretty impressive. And I think that definitely has to say something. This also goes down to the fact that Brian has the bro card slid here. Brian brought this one for only $6. I think that is an absolute steal. I think if there is a sleeper hit this summer, one that's going to exceed expectations like by a lot, aside from Max, I think it's Straight Outta Compton. I mean, come on. I mean, the movie about Dr. Dre and the whole NWA thing, you know, fuck the police, all that shit. I mean, you're going to get the 90s kids who are nostalgic about that, who arguably didn't fucking understand what was going on at the time. You're going to get the hip-hop heads doing whatever the hell they do. You know, it's a sell across a pretty broad spectrum. And I think that's definitely going to be a thing. And it's the kind of story that a lot of people like, where it's, you know, it's a success story where there was a lot of adversity and they overcame. And now they're these huge media moguls and they're going to make a ton of money and it's going to be fucking awesome. So, I mean, I think that's going to be a good way to close things out. The last movie is Mastermind, which opens up the same day as Straight Outta Compton and Man from U.N.C.L.E. That's Mastermind. It stars Kristen Wiig and Bill Hader, and I don't remember who's directing, but it's a comedy heist movie where they have to steal money for a comedic reason. Yes. So tough guess on that. Just kind of breaking down some other interesting points. If you're paying attention, you'll notice that me and TJ only have 4 movies, and we only spent $55. That's kind of crazy. Yeah. I got to finish up the rest of the links thing and get everything else figured out. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting spread what's going on. And, you know, I think Aaron going on the 2-movie strategy, he's done it before and it didn't pay off. This one, I think he has a better chance to have it work, especially with Age of Ultron, where we're leading up to, it already had a huge release internationally this past week. This week it released in the United States and Canada, and I think Mexico and most of the Western Hemisphere. Obviously, this movie's going to do very well. They got Pitch Perfect 2 on top of that. You know, the last one made some money. It didn't make a lot, but it's going to be that cherry on top of the ice cream sundae. Corey and Mark really kind of picked up a lot of the movies that I think are going to be reasonable hits, and they had a large number of reasonable hits. Plus, they have the 2 kids movies. So that's probably a guaranteed $300 million right there on top of everything else. You know, I think Tomorrowland is a risky pick. I think Mad Max is a risky pick. And, you know, while everything else is kind of on the lower end of what might do well, having those kids movies is a big offset. Brian, I think, has a chance of coming out strong. She's got the bro picks. She's got a lot of, you know, middle American things that people are going to be interested in. But whether or not that can overcome the big superhero science fiction releases this summer, that's tough to say. I think aside from Aaron and the lock on at least $650 million for Avengers, Ben and Brittany really stand the best chance of winning this thing right now. I mean, Jurassic World, Terminator. What else am I missing here? Jurassic World and Terminator together. I mean, that's the guaranteed. That's $350 probably $1 million at least right there. What was the other film they had? Oh, Pixels. I mean, it's a bit of a surprise. Poltergeist is a surprise possibly. Fantastic Four. You know, it's tough to say if they're outright going to be able to match Avengers right there, but I think they stand the best chance of reaching that point easily with a couple big releases. I don't know. I think fair bet right now is it's going to be close between Aaron and Jake and Ben and Brittany for first place. I think Corey and Mark have a very clear chance for second and or third. Brian and then Taylor and myself, we are the wild cards here. Brian's got a lot of smaller films that could do very well, potentially. Whereas TJ and I, we have one major film that's going to for sure, actually two major films that are going to for sure do very, very well. And then two smaller films that we don't really know a whole lot about other than the fact that one could hit very hard, the other one will probably hit okay. So leading out to the end, you know, I'll crunch some numbers eventually. We'll talk about it later on. But it's going to be a crazy ride, and I'm very happy that y'all are in here with it. I guess the one other thing I kind of wanted to talk about going into this release weekend for Avengers is the fact that I don't really feel like we're getting really hit up the head too much with the Ultron stuff. I mean, I see the occasional commercial when I'm watching, you know, Mad Men on TV. That's cool, and it's usually an Audi commercial, which also happens to be an Age of Ultron promotion. But I don't really see a lot of things going on. You know, it'll be interesting to see this week on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., how that leads up to the Age of Ultron movie. They said it will tie in, so we'll have to see how that one turns out. I guess we technically would have 2 weeks there that would probably tie into that movie. We've also, you know, we had the press junket issue where Robert Downey Jr. walked out, and then we had the whole whore slut thing with Chris Evans and Jeremy Renner and whatever you make out of that. Okay, yes, bad, good. It's a thing. It happened. We're over it. We're past it. So Disney, I think, is kind of controlling the message. They're just saying, hey, we already know everybody's going to go see this movie. Go fucking see it. You know, I mean, I'm currently sitting here texting my brother furiously and trying to make plans to see when we're going to go do it on Thursday. I already know I'm going to go see it twice, you know, and it's like, do you see it in 3D? Do you see it in IMAX? Do you see it in regular? Do you go and do something special like the Alamo? Do you do something just here in town? You know, it's all a big mix. So, I mean, it's pretty obvious that all of us are going to go see the Avengers. We might even go see the Avengers twice, some of us. Maybe even 3 times. It's hard to say. So, you know, interesting that I over the head with stuff. Versus, as I kind of mentioned, we're already starting to get the onslaught for Jurassic Park, which is more than a month away. So, you know, how it's just interesting to see how that marketing is working out. And it kind of comes down to the messaging there where people go, we know this movie's going to be good. We know this movie's going to make a lot of money. We don't have to advertise it a whole lot. Okay. Versus another one where they go, we know this movie's not going to be very good. We're going to advertise the shit out of it. And then we're going to stop before the movie comes out. And then the week it comes out, advertise the shit out of it. And maybe the week after and keep the legs going. But the weird thing is also, this being the summer movie draft that I've been talking about since we started doing the movie draft, where we have all these huge releases, not including the crazy ones this winter, because this winter is going to be fucking crazy too. You know, there isn't a lot of room for a lot of these movies to release. I mean, if we really look at it, you're pretty much on a 2-week flip with what major releases are. So, I mean, we got Age of Ultron the first week of May. Second week of May, you've got Mad Max Fury Road and Tomorrowland, 2 movies that are going to kind of be doing that. And Tomorrowland, I guess, technically is the 3rd week of May. Tomorrowland is also a Disney film, so that's going to be eating some of their own money out of the Avengers. Just a couple weeks later, we've got Jurassic World. That's a big deal. What is that? That's 2 weeks after Tomorrowland. You go 2 more weeks past that, you've got Terminator, I suppose, would be the next week after that. 2 weeks after that, you've got Ant-Man. 2 weeks after that is, what, Mission